Whom do we truly love? The state, the self, or the soul of freedom?
The Age of Allegiance. The story of civilization can be read as a story of allegiance. From the empires of Mesopotamia to the modern nation-state, humanity has woven love into flags, hymns, and constitutions. We are taught to see our nation as an extension of ourselves, to bleed for its honor, to die for its survival. Yet, what if this very teaching corrodes the inner essence of being human? Gustav Heimann, a man shaped by war, dictatorship, and rebuilding, once spoke a sentence that sliced through centuries of patriotic dogma. "No way, I don't love my state or any state. Whom I love is my wife, that's it." Heimann, Germany's third post-war president, defied the romantic myth of nationalism. His words were not cynical. They were a reclamation of intimacy in a world seduced by abstractions. But why does his statement still unsettle us today? Perhaps because it forces us to ask whether our love for the state is a substitute for love we have lost elsewhere. To what extent has our attachment to the nation become a defense mechanism against loneliness, guilt, or purposelessness? Question for reflection.
When you say you love your country, do you mean love for the people who inhabit it or love for an idea that asks for obedience more than understanding?
The emotional machinery of the state love is power's sweetest disguise. Every regime, democratic or despotic, wraps itself in emotional vocabulary: unity, pride, loyalty. The 20th century perfected this psychological machinery. Flags became vestments of faith. Borders were sanctified. And those who doubted were branded traitors, not because they posed danger, but because they shattered the metaphysical illusion that the state can be loved. From Plato's Republic to Hobbes' Leviathan, philosophers recognized the state as a necessary construction, a contract, not a deity. Yet modern politics blurred the line between governance and religion. Citizens became disciples. Leaders became prophets of identity. Love of the state turned into moral virtue. Heinemann's refusal to mirror this emotion exposed a deeper truth. Love directed toward an institution is inherently misplaced. States, like corporations, have no capacity for love. They wield it as currency, not as a means of communion. And yet we crave belonging. Perhaps the tragedy is that we entrust our hunger for meaning to entities incapable of reciprocation. Question for reflection.
Can a structure without a soul ever be worthy of your love, or only of your consent?
From nation to narrative, to understand the love of the state, we must examine its narrative function. Nations are not facts. They are stories. Benedict Anderson referred to them as imagined communities. Every anthem, every monument, every shared myth binds citizens through a common imagination. That imagination sustains order and, at times, justifies horror. Germans once sang with pride under banners that promised destiny. Americans declared divine exceptionalism. Russians defended the motherland. Each narrative turned emotion into policy and empathy into suspicion. Nationalism, at its peak, convinces good people that compassion for the other is betrayal. Heimann had witnessed this firsthand. Born in 1899, he saw Germany love itself into ruin twice. His words weren't romantic minimalism. They were moral realism. To love his wife, he implied, was to choose the immediate human over the abstract idea. His love was concrete, a body, a life, a soul, not a symbol. Question for reflection.
When history asks us to kill for what we love, should we question whether we have mistaken an idea for a person?
The paradox of patriotism. Here lies the paradox. No state survives without emotional attachment, yet emotional attachment to the state breeds fanaticism. How then can one be both loyal and free? Philosopher Erich Fromm offered a clue in The Sane Society. He wrote that mature love distinguishes between possession and care. To truly love something, one must want it to grow, not dominate it or be consumed by it. Patriotism, then, must evolve from blind devotion toward critical affection, the courage to demand better from one's nation precisely because one sees its flaws. Heimann understood this distinction. His disavowal was not apathy but emancipation. He refused to let his identity be consumed by the machinery of the collective. To love his wife instead of his state was to reaffirm individuality against political hypnosis. Question for reflection.
Is true patriotism the act of loving your country or the act of holding it accountable?
Love and the limits of abstraction. Philosophically, love's essence is concrete. It happens between beings, not ideas. You cannot touch the economy, you cannot kiss the state, and you cannot weep with the Constitution. Yet people have perished for these abstractions while ignoring the tangible suffering next door. Here, Hyman's statement becomes a moral compass. His words remind us that the moral universe collapses when love becomes too large to be real. To say, "I love humanity, but hate one's neighbor" is easy. To love one's neighbor in particularity is revolutionary. Total love becomes inert when it disperses into abstraction. Only the specific resists manipulation. Simone Weil expanded this view. She argued that justice begins with attention, the capacity to attend to another person as reality without projection. Hyman's love, directed toward his wife, was attention incarnate, personal, embodied, and indivisible. Through that, he restored meaning to love itself. Question for reflection.
Have we diluted the power of love by stretching it over symbols too vast to ever return it?
The state as a moral mirage. Historically, the state presents itself as the guardian of morality. It defines virtue, labels enemies, and dispenses punishment. Yet, when Heinemann refused to love the state, he did something radical. He separated morality from power. The 20th century proved that the state's moral language is often a camouflage. Nazi Germany enacted evil in the name of order. Stalinist purges were justified as a matter of loyalty. Patriotism became a test of submission, not conscience. To love the state, then, was to surrender moral independence. This insight echoes Hannah Arendt's warning about the banality of evil, that ordinary people commit atrocities not out of hatred but obedience. Hyman's defiance thus guarded the human conscience from assimilation. His love for his wife symbolized love's last bastion, a domain beyond the reach of propaganda. Question for reflection.
Are you sure that what you call moral duty isn't simply the echo of power speaking through you?
Love as resistance in rejecting state-centered love. Hyman wasn't withdrawing from civic life. He was redefining citizenship. Real love is resistance to dehumanization. To choose the person over the institution is to reclaim humanity from the abstractions that enslave it. Love, here, becomes political in the deepest sense, not as loyalty to systems, but as fidelity to conscience. To love one's spouse, child, or neighbor authentically is to create microcosms of justice, places where empathy triumphs over ideology. The state may legislate conduct, but only love regenerates meaning. This is why tyrants fear intimacy. They know that private love weakens public obedience. The more a citizen's soul is bound to another human, the less it can be possessed by the collective myth. Question for reflection.
What do you risk when you choose to love the individual over the institution, and what do you gain?
The path beyond national illusion, if Hyman's words still resonate. It's because the modern world still worships the old gods in new temples. The flags have changed, but the faith remains. Today's digital empires command the same emotional loyalty once reserved for nations. Corporate slogans promise belonging. Algorithms engineer consent. Thus, the question becomes, can we imagine a society founded not on collective illusion but collective empathy? What would politics look like if our primary allegiance were to consciousness itself, to the fragile, breathing miracle of each person, rather than to a border or bureaucracy? Hyman's declaration offers a blueprint. Begin with what is real. Love what touches you, what you can understand, what can love you in return. From that intimacy, draw the ethical structure of your politics. The state will follow, or it will fall, but your humanity will endure. Question for reflection.
What would change if political systems were designed around love, not loyalty?
Food for thought. Hyman's quiet defiance was not merely personal sentiment, it was a reordering of values. It invites us to dismantle the myth that moral worth flows from patriotic love. The state deserves scrutiny, not affection. Nations, like tools, must serve life, not the other way around. The philosopher's task, the historian's duty, and the investigator's burden converge here, to discern the boundary between devotion and delusion. When you conflate identity with authority, you lose both. When you reclaim love as a private virtue, you reclaim the foundations of collective sanity. So remember Hyman's wisdom in its stark humility. No way, I don't love my state or any state. Whom I love is my wife, that's it. Within that simplicity lies a revolution. Because the state may command your taxes, your labor, even your death, but only you can decide where your love belongs. And perhaps the fate of civilization depends on that decision. Question for reflection.
When the world asks for your loyalty, will you have the courage to answer not with allegiance, but with love?
The courage to love in defiance. We live in a time when every system, political, digital, corporate, hungers for allegiance. Each one whispers, "Belong to me, defend me, love me." The machinery of influence has never been more seductive, nor the confusion between love and loyalty more profound. But Hyman's words slice clean through this fog. Don't love the state. Love the human being beside you. It's a message both tender and revolutionary. Because real transformation never begins with a flag, a party, or a law. It begins with one person daring to love another freely, attentively, without agenda. To choose this kind of love is an act of rebellion. It resists the cold arithmetic of power. It refuses to let your moral compass be outsourced to propaganda. It reclaims the sacred territory of self-determined conscience, the place where empathy, truth, and forgiveness are reborn. So, what must we do? We must learn again the art of personal loyalty, not to institutions, but to the human spirit. We must replace slogans with dialogue and obedience with understanding. We must refuse to outsource our morality to those who demand affection in exchange for control. And we must love courageously, knowing that every act of authentic care weakens the walls that separate us. This is not sentimentality, it is survival. A civilization can only remain humane if its people remember how to love without permission. Let us then be loyal not to the cold geometry of states, but to the trembling reality of each other. Let us build a future where citizenship means conscience, where patriotism means compassion, and where love is no longer a political slogan but a living moral force. Question for reflection.
When your age demands allegiance, will you have the bravery to answer with love instead of obedience, to live in defiance of every system that asks for your soul?
The call let us begin today, in our words, our relationships, our public choices, to prove that love, not fear, is the true foundation of freedom. Speak truth even when it isolates you. Defend humanity even when the crowd mocks you. Love someone so deeply, so attentively, that no banner could ever claim that love for itself. Because in the end, history doesn't remember who saluted the loudest, it remembers who remained human the longest. So go and live by the courage of your compassion. Love as if it were the last law that mattered. And when your conscience speaks louder than your government, listen, that voice is the only state truly worth defending. Question for reflection.
When the power demands your pride and the world tempts you to choose safety over truth, you have the courage to stand for love. Brothers and sisters, heed my words. The shadows gather, and we must stand firm. Our faith will guide us.
Please tell me what you think and how you feel about this issue. Analyze it, brainstorm it, debate it, and if you like it, please share it. Thank you for watching. I truly and highly appreciate you, and God bless you.